Greetings, duelists, and welcome back to the Underground. So, today we're going to talk about YCS Orlando. This is the first major Yu-Gi-Oh! Event that we've had in 2025, outside of the Italian Opens and like a bunch of regionals. And this is not only that, this is also the first YCS this year, with Supreme Darkness being legal in the TCG. As somebody who has been showcasing a lot of Maliss and talking about Maliss's performance here in the TCG as well as the OCG, I kind of just wanted to like summarize their performance at this event and whether or not it is warranted. So as you can see here from this chart, it was 2,274 duelists, which equated to 12 rounds of Swiss. And then top 64. It was around 10 hours each day, summarizing the event at around 20 to 21 hours of just dueling between rounds. Here we have the chart of the top 64. We see all the decks that performed very well at this event. And we can see that Maliss did perform very, very well. It was the second highest deck that made top cut, and not only that, it made it all the way to top 4, as opposed to YCS Anaheim, where it made top 8. So I want to give a few shoutouts because I did see a lot of Maliss deck profiles. I want to shout out Logan, Kite, and Minsu Park, as well as Miles Valentino. Out of all the Maliss deck profiles that I've seen, these two are the most informative ones. I am going to post them in the channel, in the description. I highly recommend you watch both of these deck profiles. They are very informative. They explained a lot of things involving the Maliss deck that I think people have overlooked. And there are some things that they do mention that are not being covered yet in this channel. So I really do recommend to watch these profiles. They're very well made. Also, shout outs to the people they shout out. So whichever accolades these people give, just goes forward to their channel onto this one. So I'm not gonna go over all the Maliss deck list. I'm just going to go over a few of them and talk about a few things that just caught my eye. Outside of the pure Maliss list from these guys, almost every list that I saw was main decking Metaltronus. We already spoke about Metaltronus in this channel. We talked about why I don't like Metaltronus in Maliss. However, that's not to take credit away from this card. This card is incredibly powerful. It is very helpful for the Maliss deck. The first thing this card does that makes it very possible is it outs Ryzeal Detonator if you play it in your main deck. And outing Detonator is a very big deal when it comes to this deck. When Maliss goes first, the deck feels almost unbeatable. It just has enough extenders and it has enough openers in order to just play through a lot of your opponent's interactions. But when you go second, specifically against Ryzeal Detonator, it just feels very rough, like dealing with this card, especially if you don't draw enough non-engine. Metaltronus is a way to circumvent that. But the other thing that Metaltronus does for this deck is it is another extender that makes it so you can play through your like Maliss interactions in the Maliss boards. Also, again, shoutouts to Miles Valentino. He brought up this on his profile. A really cool interaction with Metaltronus is that if you summon Heart of Cryptor with Metaltronus and you have Heart of Cryptor being pointed at something, this is a classified retroactive effect. What does that mean? It means that it is a condition that is tied to Hearts of Cryptor, and if you end up with something that negates Heart of Cryptor, be it a card effect, a card condition, a continuous effect, the Heart of Cryptor can resolve not being negated. Another thing that we see is multiple bestials. Like 90% of lists that top were on heavy bestials. Only 2 of them were on Fiendsmith. 2 of them that made top 64 were Fiendsmith variants. Shout out to one of them, Carlos Baez. I will have his deck profile in the channel later this week, most likely. But yeah, my hunch was correct. The Fiendsmith variant was not as popular because the main deck consensus that you have to make is you cannot play Dimension Shifter and you cannot play Dominance Impulse. This list is from Top 64. This is from Michael Ershen. He does not play Dimension Shifter in his list. However, he does play Dominance Impulse, and this card does conflict with the Fiendsmith engine. Another profile I want to show is Jeff Jones, top 4 Maliss deck profile. This one did play Shifter in the main deck. Another thing that Jeff Jones did was he played Fualas. You can see here that he also main deck Metaltronus. So yeah, like, I think it's safe to say that if you're not playing Metaltronus in your deck, you have to be playing another extender that is just as good as Metaltronus. Another thing that I saw on most lists is most people were not maxing out Chessy Cat. Another thing that I saw in a lot of Maliss lists as well is these 2 are tied with it. This is one exception to them. Miles also did this. None of them played Dotscaper. Like, my hunch was correct. Like, Dotscaper is just a card that just conflicts with Dominance Impulse way too much. If you know how to play Maliss correctly, you don't need that card in your main deck. But yeah, this is like another thing I kind of want to bring up. A lot of them maxed out on Lord of Darkness. I'm not maxing out on Lord of Darkness because I am playing the Danger build, which means I just have enough extenders and enough ways to like open consistent hands with the Maliss deck. My consensus is I play less non-engine than other Maliss decks, and you have to respect the like Ryzeal matchup and the Fiendsmith matchup and the Maliss mirror match if you want to do that. Before I talk about the next segment, another thing I want to talk about YCS Orlando is this deck right here, like the Ryzeal Mitsurugi deck. This deck made it to the finals of the YCS, and a lot of Maliss players lost to this deck. Like, this is unironically one of the worst matchups for Maliss, which has been the main reason why I play my deck the way I play it. You have to play Dimension Shifter against this deck. Droll and Logbird is also like another card that's really important in your deck. Jeff was not playing it. However, his this person was doing that. A few other players were doing that. Like, you just have to respect this deck. Shout out to Jeff Jones. He lost to this on top 4. Benjamin, the one who topped with this deck, who also made it to the finals. He brought up the Lancia was very pivotal for his matchup against Jeff, because Jeff did win game 1 in his top 4 match against Ben. So yeah, that's pretty much something I have to bring up. This is a very small PSA. Like, if you have not played against this deck enough, I highly recommend you practice and you like play enough against this deck to just make a main deck consensus against it. Like, if you haven't seen my deck report, I will post it, but one of the main reasons I was playing the danger cards besides all the aforementioned reasons I brought up on my past dev reports, is the dangers give you a way to fight through Murakumo's hand rip effect. Like, one of the biggest things about Mitsurugi is that it dwindles down on your opponent's like resources in order for them to play the game if they go second, and the dangers help like fix that problem. But yeah, that's it when it comes to Mitsurugi. Now what I'm going to do is going to show you one of the feature matches. Shoutouts to Gabriel. The first disclaimer I'm going to give before showcasing this match and showcasing you like game one. I'm only going to show game one, and I'm gonna show all 3 games because this was a very, very lengthy match. And even at 2x speed, like, you will notice that this match like took a good amount of time. But the disclaimer I want to give before showcasing this match is, I mean, no disrespect to any of my opponent, well, to any of the players. I think Gabriel is a really, really good player. He is a good pilot of the Maliss deck. But that being said, I kind of want to showcase this match because it kind of shows you that even on top cut, mind you, Jib made top 8. Even on top cut, you are going to see very crucial misplays with the Maliss deck. Maliss was the second, if not the most represented deck in stream. Like, they streamed the Maliss deck in day 1, I think 6 to 7, like 5 to 6 times. And they showcased it a couple of times on day 2. So, and I saw all of the feature matches. I can tell you right now, almost none of them played perfectly. There was less than a handful of players who did. So it goes to show you that even pro players can make mistakes with this deck. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So the first thing is they're going to do the die roll. Gabriel rolls on 11, while Dennis Nadas rolls at 8. That makes Gabriel be able to go first. And if you see his hand, I don't know if you see it correctly, his hand was Ash Blossom, Impulse, 06, Dormouse, and Rabbit. In normal circumstances, if hand interactions do not exist, Dormouse is the best option, is the best summon, because it is the one that gets the most value out of your plays if you pull combo. However, Gabriel opened no extenders. What does this mean? Without any hand interactions or without other extenders, you are very vulnerable to a very simplified game state no matter what summon you make. In this instance, I would have summoned the Rabbit instead of Dormouse. And if the Rabbit gets stopped, I would link away Rabbit and then set 06, because it gives me a guaranteed play on Dennis Nada's turn, because we do have Ash and Impulse. With both Ash Blossom and Dominus Impulse, you have enough ways to just not get OTK'd unless your opponent just opens very, very great. And on that note and that instance, like, it's just a lot better for you. Also, if you do the 06 play with Rabbit, you give more value to your Dominus Impulse, which means you can destroy whatever you negate with Dominus Impulse. That being said, Gabriel normals the Dormouse, and it gets effect veilered. Now Gabriel sets 06, he sets the Impulse, and he passes. This is also another misplay. Well, I don't want to call it a misplay because by setting Dominus Impulse, you make sure that Firewall Dragon and Nightmare Griffin are still live, as well as Nightmare Cerberus if he plays it. Not sure if he does. However, also setting Impulse means that you are more susceptible to like interactions that just involves removal. That's not to say that removal is like popular in the main deck, but I kind of want to digress and be as efficient with my interactions against my opponent. Just avoid the middleman, like just avoid just them finding a way to just stop the Dominus Impulse if the Dominus Impulse is set rather than being in the hand. We'll continue. Dennis is contemplating on his plays. He's been thinking for a long while now, so that probably tells you he did not open a Ryzeal card. He starts with Finishment Tract, which there's no real way to stop it except for Ash Blossom. He grabs Engraver, dumps Lurie. He opened Lurie and Tract. He summons Lurie. Lurie summons the Requiem. The Requiem goes through, and we Impulse. This Impulse was not incorrect. I think this Impulse was actually fine. Impulse is not good against the Ryzeal portion of the engine. And Dennis already committed Fiendsmith Tract, which means his probably other card that could search for it with Engraver is either another copy of Tract, which was already used, or GWC06. I mean, my bad. Fiendsmith in Paradise, which is not useful at this point. We'll continue. Dennis is just contemplating. He knows that he has to get rid of this Dormouse as soon as possible. He summons Lacrima. Lacrima is going to dump Engraver. The Engraver gets summoned. He equips the Requiem. He's going to turn that into the Necroquip. Now he's going to do Engraver. This is going to net him a draw after his add of Engraver, which is probably the two aforementioned cards that I mentioned beforehand. He adds another copy of Fiendsmith Tract, which is what I expected. Now he draws off Necroquip, which we also don't Ash Blossom. Now they're going to turn these into Sequence. Sequence is going to turn all three into Desiree. He's just shuffling. Desiree gets summoned. And most likely Dana, yep, he's going for the Agnum play, which gets rid of the 06. And this is what I meant by setting Rabbit and just linking Rabbit away. Now your 06 is gone and you got no value out of it. So now if Gabriel wants to get 06 back into rotation, the Rabbit has to resolve on the very next turn, which is very hard because Dennis is going to summon Desiree with the Agnum Day. He goes to battle phase, he does Agnum Day attacking the Dormouse, and now he direct attacks with Desiree. And this is also a big deal because this is 4,600 damage, which means it puts Gabriel on very low life points. And the lower life points you have, the worse the games get when it comes to Maliss. So he summons the White Rabbit. Dennis is contemplating. He negates it. Thankfully, he did draw into Saronir. If he did not draw into Saronir, this would have been the concession of game 1. So that was a lucky, well, not gonna say lucky draw, but it was the necessary draw for them to get out of the early game. So now we are on 3 summons. And like Gabriel has to think very carefully here because if he cannot play this correctly, on the 5th summon, he gets Nibiru'd. And not only he gets Nibiru'd, but the Desiree also gets rid of whatever token he summons. So he summons Ramson. That is summon number 5. Ramson is going to trigger as well as Saronir and Link Decoder. Saronir being chained 3 does matter here because it means it means Ramson cannot get Ash Blossomed and the Link Decoder cannot get Ghost Build. He adds Underground, and now we're on this point. So before Gabriel commits to the extra deck, I'm going to say there are 2 options here. Actually, there are 3 options if you consider like the going second route. Option number 1 is XP Little Knight. With XP Little Knight, you just banish the Red Ramson. The Red Ramson gets to return, and then with the Red Ramson, you banish either Chessy Cat or White Rabbit. What that play does is it plays better into Nibiru because we are in Nibiru range, but it also plays well into the Desiree whenever it gets removed from the board. Another option is to summon Access Code Talker and use Access Code Talker to banish the Red Ramson and use it to pop the Agnum Day. I would not pop the Desiree because the Desiree will just get rid of the access code, and you just use the Ramson to summon White Rabbit into 07, and then use 07 interaction with the Rabbit to banish the Desiree, and you just put your opponent on almost lethal, which is guaranteed lethal if you do Underground. And then there is the Splash Mage line, which is the one that Gabriel is about to do. The thing about Splash Mage is the issue that I have with Splash Mage is once Splash Mage resolves, outside of Maliss in Underground, he has no real way to extend through Nibiru. And we have to remind ourselves, 06 is already in Graveyard, so that's not an interaction or a safety net against Nibiru anymore unless we resolve White Binder. So Gabriel is going to Splash Mage, targeting the Dormouse, which I also think is incorrect. He also risked himself getting bestialed by doing that. Like, the Dormouse was already banished by Saronir early this turn. So that's one thing you have to take note of. A lot of these Ryzeal Beatmith decks are playing Bestials as part of their non-engine. So he could have been punished by a Bestial by just targeting the Dormouse with Splash Mage. Gabriel now summons the Binder. The Binder gets summoned. He targets the Lacrima, and he targets the Red Ramson. So, another thing to note here, he still has Underground. However, we're not banishing White Rabbit, and Chessy Cat is still in the main deck. So, by doing this, you're cutting access to Rabbit setting a trap card. And remember, 06 is already in Graveyard. And Binder has not done her effect to set a Maliss trap card. So this also gets punished by Nibiru. So now Ramson resolves. Ramson's going to come back. The Ramson's going to banish the Chessy Cat, as I expected. Chessy Cat now comes to the field. And again, like, I understand the value behind banishing Necroquip, but I just would have banished the White Rabbit because White Rabbit has not been banished yet. Dennis Nadas is asking to confirm that, and Gabriel confirms that with Dennis. So yeah, he tries to enter battle phase, or I think they were in the simplified game state, and now he gets Nibiru. One bright side to all of this is that the underground has not been used yet, and the white binder has still not set a trap card. So that is something to note. Now he undergrounds for the white binder. White binder gets summoned and he draws a card. And most likely with the white binder, he's going to set the 06 because it is his safety net for next turn. Yeah, he sets 06. And binder cannot run over this Nibiru. One thing that Gabriel can do is he can flip the 06, banish the binder, resummon Ramson. The problem with that is the Ramson is not linked, so it cannot switch the attack or defense of the Nibiru. Another note is, unless I'm looking at that wrongly, I think Gold Sarcophagus is on Gabriel's hand. Or was it still the Ash Blossom? It was Ash Blossom and another card. No, okay, it was just Ash Blossom. So Dennis activates the track. Track just sends and resummons the Lurie. Upon the Lurie summon, Gabriel flips the 06. He's most likely gonna summon White Rabbit. Yep, Rabbit gets summoned. He gains 1200 life points. Rabbit gets to activate. He sets the 07. He grabs the Dormouse. And I just noticed his life points, and this is very important for the commentary that I'm making. Jib probably did not have enough life points to rotate the Rabbit. That being said, I still would have banished Rabbit instead of Cat, because Rabbit setting a trap is way more important than Cat being in the rotation. Let's continue. Dennis activates Engraver for a second time. He grabs Paradise this time. He uses Engraver's Graveyard effect. He links it for Requiem. That gets Ash Blossomed. So now Jib forced a more simplified game state. Dennis is just contemplating on his plays. He does have a Bestial in hand. We see it. That Bestial was most likely drawn for turn because Dennis otherwise could have used it to banish Dormouse last turn and just punish Gabriel. So he banishes the Magnamut, he summons the Druisworm, and now he enters battle phase. He's forced to attack the Link Monster because of Underground, and because of White Rabbit, he takes no damage. This is stuff that I brought up on the first Underground video. Just having the Maliss Link Monsters linked and having Underground just shows you that. So, yep, he did have Gold Sarcophagus. I was correct. So he could have activated this last turn and just banished Rabbit. Another thing to note is he drew TB11 for turn, which also could have been avoided if he just set with Rabbit on the previous turn in the first place. So this is Jib just like getting the value out of whatever he has left. He summons another Chessy Cat. He now does Chessy Cat to summon draw Dormouse and draw 2 cards and banish Dormouse rather. He drew into another Dominus Impulse, which is very important. He now does Dormouse into Rabbit. Rabbit is not gonna set any cards because he already went through all the Malice traps. This also tells Dennis that he drew the 11. So this game is still not over. Gabriel is still contemplating. He is going to link away. He's contemplating on his options. He still has Linguribo. He still has SP Little Knight. He summons Haggard Lizardos. He banishes Asher Blossom. He uses it just to lower the attack of Nibiru, which really shouldn't matter if you get Red Ramson into rotation. He now summons SP Little Knight, which is one of the options that we brought up for the previous turn instead of Splash Mage. Also, he now banishes the White Binder. The White Binder is about to get summoned, and most likely White Binder is going to rotate the Red Ramson. He drew into Nibiru. Binder is going to not banish. They're probably clarifying something with the judges. I think Dennis has another Nibiru. Yep, he does. That gets impulsed. Now he sets with the Binder. He sets 06. He flips 06, banishes the Binder to re-summon the Binder. He's doing that because his life points are way too low. Like, you want to keep life point economy, especially if he passes turn and does not regain any life points. He is just like susceptible to losing out to these monsters attacking over SP Little Knight. He's now doing Binder's effect, which I'm also perplexed why she didn't do that effect the first time she got summoned. Now the Ramson is linked to Binder, which means both the Nibiru and the Druisworm can be outed. Dennis is on minimal cards. Like, a lot of times has already run on the clock. You're low on life. In this instance right here, I would just attack over all these monsters. And Dennis, if he's smart enough, he'll use Druisworm to send SP Little Knight, which is the correct play. But I would just do that. I would just not contemplate on wasting more resources. Like, you need to simplify the game state. Yep, he goes into battle phase. He attacks over the Nibiru. He does not attack over Druisworm, which I would have attacked because Ramson is switching the attack and defense. Most likely Jib forgot about that. He summons Nightmare Griffin, and he's pitching Nibiru. I'm going to pause it right here. This activation is illegal. Gabriel did activate Dominus Impulse from his hand in this very same turn to negate the Nibiru from Dennis, which means Griffin is a light attribute monster. For the rest of this duel, he cannot activate light attribute monsters. I think the judges caught it a little bit afterwards, but neither Gabriel nor Dennis caught this interaction happening. He tries to set 07 because the Griffin is co-linked. He draws a card. He drew into Effect Veiler, which is also a card that he cannot activate anymore because of Impulse. He summons a Bow, he discards Veiler, and he resummons SP Little Knight, which I don't disagree with. I think SP Little Knight is more important than Nightmare Griffin. I think what he just wants to do is just like put himself into a position where he's more comfortable against Dennis interactions. But here's my problem with all of this. There's nothing stopping this Druidworm to getting rid of any of the cards here. Like, you can bow to like pop it, it can still get rid of one of them. And you can use the SP Little Knight to chain and just get rid of both of them. That is one option, but you just be more susceptible to more plays that way. He now activates Boldrake. Boldrake is going to target the Binder. He's going to resummon Binder. He loses 900. He draws a card. Judges freeze play. It seems like they caught the illegal action, which was the Dominus Impulse versus Griffin interaction. Now they're going to repair the game state. Yep. This is going to take a little bit. They're just showing the judges what cards they had, what cards they drew. This is a small player infraction on Gabriel's part for doing the illegal play. I don't think Dennis will get an infraction, even though it is responsibility of both players to maintain the game state. But Dennis probably was as dubious as Gabriel when it came to that interaction happening. So now Gabriel is just explaining that he cannot set with Griffin. So they're going to go back to the interaction they had on the previous turn. They're just repairing the game state. Yeah, that effect Veiler is not in his hand anymore. So he is going to summon Griffin. He is going to summon a Bow. But there is one problem. That effect Veiler should not be in his hand. And I don't think even the judges caught it. Dennis is just reading about a coup. Yeah. Okay, the Veiler was correct. I think the incorrect card was the Bestial, was the Baldrake. I think the Veiler was drawn out of Binder's effect. He's using Binder now. He's targeting the Ramson. Ramson gets summoned. The Ramson just resolves and banishes the Dormouse. Also, if you skim through Gabriel's deck, you notice that he is also on Metal Tronus in the main deck. Like, this just further proves the analogy that Metal Tronus is just becoming a staple this format. At least on Maliss specifically. So yeah, he's explaining the underground interaction and the Dormouse interaction. Take note, this Bestial Druisworm cannot run over any of their monsters except the SP Little Knight. But again, because of underground, he is forced to attack one of the Link monsters. He gets rid of the White Binder, which is the correct play. By getting rid of White Binder, you basically like eliminate the underground interaction as well as the Dormouse interaction as well as the Ramson interaction. Dennis just sets one card. He gets Bestial, and that is the conclusion of game one. So the conclusion we can draw from this game is Dennis did not open very playable. Gabriel, aka Gabriel, did open playable, but he pretty much got interacted with non-engine enough times. And even though he got away with game one, this is not to say that game one was as smooth or as interactive as it could have been. Again, no disrespect to Gabriel, no disrespect to like any of the Maliss players that made Top Cut, but I kind of wanted to talk about that because when it comes to Maliss, this deck is not an easy deck to play. This deck is incredibly hard to master. The goal of my Underground series is to let players know and how to play better with this deck. And I really hope that I did well enough with this video. So that's gonna be it from me. It was a very lengthy video. Let me know what else you wish to see involving like YCS Orlando or like Maliss in general. I will have a few more videos up in this channel like later this week. For now, just keep practicing and keep dueling.